to the 3rd annual Indie GameCon here in Eugene, Oregon. We have a great lineup of some new and familiar faces, so let's go take a look. So what's your name and what's your game?
Christian Vandegrift. I made Crate Punks.
How long have you been working on it?
That's a very difficult question. You could say 5 months, you could say 3 years, but I would say 5 months.
How many people are on your team?
Overall, it's just me. I contracted out the art and the sound.
What would you say is your favorite moment that you've crafted for players?
I think there's a lot of moments where people are kind of like moving around each other really quickly, and there's kind of like that exciting point in the game where crates are flying but nobody's dying because everyone's definitely just like dodging the boxes, and then someone dies and then everyone just goes, oh, that's the best moment. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does.
What's something important that you've learned during production?
Don't make your own engine. That's what I did, and it was a horrible idea. I'll be using a proper engine from now on, definitely. It'll save me time.
Hi, my name is Ted Brown. I'm the creator of Chess Heroes and Sun God Starbridge.
How long have you been working on them?
Too long. Too long. No, so Sun God Starbridge, which this dude's playing right here, doing a good job at, by the way, Saturn, awesome. Was a Game Jam game we created about 2 years ago. Michael Jones and Will Bucknam and Michael McCarthy and I. And then this is my daughter Zelda. And so then Chess Heroes, I've been running off for about 3 years. It was her idea. I stole it from her. I'm not giving her any money at all. Yeah, she knows. But she's in the will, so it's good. And then, but Chess Heroes is right here. It's doing a beautiful little game and still working on it.
What is your favorite moment you've crafted for players?
That's a good question. I had a 4-year-old like almost snap that controller in half because he was playing just so angry, and his dad's like, and I'm like, oh, I get it, dude. I had a younger brother who was the same way. He would chuck controllers across the room before they were wireless, so it would yank the. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's good. Oh, here's the boy.
Hi.
It's a family affair. Oof. We're being interviewed, kids.
Oof.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Get just hog up my spotlight.
What do you think is an important thing that you've learned during production?
Pacing myself for sure, and when you're trying to release a product, you got to be focused on what you're actually going to deliver, and getting that scope right. That's a really boring answer. Finding the fun, because really, it's all about fun, right? Right, Deadpool?
Right.
Just right.
All right, thank you so much, Ted Brown, everybody.
My name is Brian Jameson, and our game is EXO.
So how long have you been working on it?
A little over 2 years. 2 years and 2 months.
How many people are on your team?
There's 3 full-time people on the team, and then some other contractors like our composer and sound effects.
What do you think is your favorite moment you've crafted for players?
Well, I watched a lot of Battlestar Galactica, and that was sort of the inspiration for making this game. And when I see people like get that feeling of being the commander, that's what really makes it for me. Yeah.
What's something that's really important you've learned during production?
It always takes 10 times longer than you think.
I'm Lindsay Trope, and our game here is Tidal Online.
How many people are on your team?
Yeah, we have 13 core people on our team that develop it, and other people volunteering, adding from grants and stuff, like another 6 people working on it full time right now too. So,
How long have you been working on it?
we've been working on this for about a year and a half, but we also kind of put out a side game with a small part of our gameplay to get something to people faster, so we're kind of bouncing between the two as we do that.
What do you think is your favorite thing that you've crafted for players?
The core mechanics. I mean, essentially what we have here is an MMO where you happen to be learning science while you play it, and a lot of people don't really understand how you can do that, and it is a real game, but it's just that we have mechanics that are working with learning things. You're solving problems, we have detective modes and things like that that are really creative, and watching kids play this event has been awesome. I mean, the fist bumps and yes when they finally overcome this problem has been awesome, so I'm hyped on that right now.
That's awesome. So what do you think is an important thing that you've learned during production?
I've learned like 1,000 million things. So I don't come from a game development background. I was working on a PhD in education when I founded the studio, and so I knew nothing about game development at all. Probably the most important moment for us as a studio was when we went live with our first game and getting that out there and just having live players that need you and how to adjust and tweak the gameplay to make sure it's that perfect level of onboarding, but letting them figure things out for themselves was a really great moment for us.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to us. I passed.
My name is Alexander Womack, and my game is Modulus Phase 1. It's a 4X RTS hybrid built around player design units, dynamic destruction, and emergent AI.
How long have you been working on it?
Nearly 5 years. Yes.
How many people are on your team?
That's why it's taken nearly 5 years.
What do you think is your favorite part that you've crafted for players?
Oh, people love being able to design their own ships and make them do it exactly the way they feel they want. My goal was to make it so you can make any kind of ship you want from any kind of series, and not only have it look right, but feel right. It has to play right. It has to all be valid. So I don't lock them into a certain style of play. That's entirely up to them. And then beautiful explosions, and they see stuff getting blown all the heck and back.
That's great. What do you think is something important that you've learned during production?
Feature creep is bad.
I'm David Merrill. I'm the mayor of fun at Out of My Mind Games, and I make VR mobile apps.
How long have you been working on this particular game?
I've got a few games, and I've been working on them off and on about a year.
How many people are on your team?
Me.
Just you?
Just me.
Just you.
Michael did some sounds for me on Asteroids.
So what do you think is your favorite moment you've crafted for players?
Watching them play.
Do you think you have any advice for beginning game devs?
Just start doing it.
My name's Eric Rossman from Rossman Bros Games, and our game is Get Me Out of Here, coming soon to mobile devices.
How long have you been working on it?
We finished up development on our last game, Jump Jack, that released last October, and we've been working on this one ever since, so a little over a year now.
So how many people are on your team?
It's my brother and I. I do the code, and he does the art and music, so yeah.
Cool. What is your favorite moment that you created for players?
Well, something that we've witnessed players right here actually happening right now. There's this cow boss where you play as this farmer who's been abducted by aliens, and one of the bosses you have to fight is your own cow that they abducted and weaponized. And so seeing players' smiles light up whenever that cow comes on is pretty fun.
What is something that you've learned during production?
Getting the game into people's hands early to as quickly as possible see if things feel right to people, so that you can make the changes sooner rather than later, where I feel it'd be more difficult to.
I'm Alex, and my game is Laser Lasso Ball.
How long have you been working on it?
I've been working on it kind of on and off for 3 years, really, but the time between working on it and not working on it also varies in length.
How many people are on your team?
It's just me and another guy did the music, a local Seattle guy known as Slothfella.
What's your favorite moment you've crafted for players?
My favorite moment that I've crafted for players. I think everything I do in the game, whenever I make a new way for characters to die or kill somebody else, I get this weird little giddy feeling. So I just tend to keep adding little things like that, and they tend to make me laugh. So I think everything. I guess I got when I added lasers, I'll say that's my favorite moment.
And what do you think you've learned during production?
Man, I've learned so much. This is actually my first game that I've ever tried to make by myself, and so I pretty much learned everything about making games. Not really, but mostly I think just learning to be more efficient and realistic about my goals. It's probably part of what I learned.
Hi, I'm Gary, and our game is called The Rabbit and the Owl.
How long have you been working on it?
We started the game in August of 2015, so a little over a year now, and we're hoping to finish the game around April of next year.
How many people are on your team?
We've got about 7 people on the team, so it's me. I started the game, kind of conceptualized it first, and then after some proof of concept, I brought some people around to help with the game. I've got my friend Justin back there. He's a high school friend, so I've known him for many years, and we also just through coincidence and luck, we found some really great people who are doing some stellar work on the game for art, music, and sound. So 7 people in total.
What do you think is your favorite moment that you've crafted for players?
You know, I feel like every level has like a moment, because one of my main inspirations is this game called Braid. And Jonathan Blow, one of my favorite quotes from him is, you want to give players the joy of discovery. So all of our levels actually have a moment where they are like messing around for like 5 minutes and they can't figure it out, and then they get that aha moment, right? And that's what, now I never get tired of seeing people do that, because I start to see people like figure out how they get to that point in like similar ways, and yeah, it always makes me happy to see them like really get it and like get that spark in their head, you know.
My name is Thor, and I own Pirate Software. We're working on an RPG called Heartbound, and we also have another game. It's a twin-stick shooter called Champions of Breakfast.
How long have you been working on it?
So Heartbound we've been working on for about 6 months. I was working on it back when I worked at Blizzard Entertainment before this, and I quit that to go do this full time. Champions of Breakfast we made back in April, and we built the entire game in 24 days and released it on Steam.
How big is your team?
So our team is 4 people. We have Seraph over here, who is our animator. There's Shay, who's our artist. Then we've got a guy named Stein van Winkeren that lives off in the Netherlands, and he is our musician. And I do all the programming and game design.
Wonderful. So what do you think is your favorite moment that you've created for players?
Oh man, it's seeing their faces when they're playing Heartbound, when they have something that happens and they didn't expect it, and they go, they have that moment where they freak out. They're like, oh, what was that? Did I screw up? And they look around like, did anyone just see me do that? I don't want to be seen freaking out. So.
What do you think is something that you've really learned during production?
Honestly, seeing how players, like even here actually, is seeing how players move through things is really, really important, because while I'm developing it, I go and go like, oh, what would somebody do in this room? But once you actually put it in front of them, you're like, man, all of them are doing the same thing, and it's not what I expected at all. So doing that has actually been really fantastic.
Rachel Cardone, and my game is called Rewind.
How long have you been working on it?
I started it in 2008, but I haven't been working on it all year. There was a couple years where I didn't work on it.
How many people are on your team?
It's mainly just me. I do the design and the programming, but I did contract out the artwork and sound. So about 10 people total.
What's your favorite moment that you've created for players?
Well, a lot of the puzzles, I'm really happy when I can see the gears turning in the player's head and they figure out a puzzle, because to me it's a good feeling when they figure out something that I've created, and when it makes them feel smart. I love that feeling.
And what's something that you learned during production?
A lot of playtesting. You have to get a lot of playtesting done. You have to put as early as possible, put the game in front of players and just get them to play it and take a lot of notes.
My name is Britt Brady, and my games are Sergeant Saturn and Handsome Mr. Frog.
How long have you been working on it?
Handsome Mr. Frog we made in about 10 days. Sergeant Saturn we've been working on since August, and it's not done yet.
How many people are on your team?
Mostly it's me and Colin Dwyer, and these 2 games specifically we worked with an artist called ZBW to do the music.
What's your favorite moment that you've created for people?
Shave on legs.
And what's something that you've learned during your production?
Being friendlier to new players. Instead of just learning that as you're developing a game, you're getting really good at it, but people that haven't played it before aren't. So just balancing for that sort of thing.
My name is Geronimo Rogers, and my game is Archeo.
And how long have you been working on it?
Well, I built it for the Ludum Dare Game Jam, so I spent 48 hours on the initial build, and I spent probably a few other days polishing it up afterwards.
How many people are on your team?
It's just me.
What do you think is your favorite thing that you've crafted for players?
Yeah, well, my favorite moment, honestly, is when they finish the level and the whole thing just goes spinning around and it glows and everyone's like, oh, amazing. It's just like a really good feeling.
What have you learned during production?
The simplest way to do things is not always the best way to do things.
My name's James Treneman, and I'm working on Kite, and it's an arcade RPG that's available on Steam.
And how long have you been working on it?
So I've been working on this game now for 2.5 years, so it's been a little bit of a slog. And I started basically with no experience, and I've had to learn all the way from scratch my artwork, my programming, and it's been a real adventure. So 2.5 years today, and it's now in early access, so still not completely done, but it's really far along.
How many people are on your team?
It's actually just me. I do have a guy who did the composition for the music. He's up in Canada, actually found him on Reddit, and he's just this musical genius, and I worked with him over Skype to get this all original synthwave soundtrack that I have.
That's great. So what do you think is your favorite moment you've crafted for players?
My favorite moment that I've crafted is the ability to see somebody get better at playing not just my game, but other games that use similar controls. Somebody might start up and they're barely familiar with the WASD movement, maybe from Minecraft or something like that, but within a couple levels, you can see their fingers just dancing on the keyboard, using their turbo speed, using their slow motion, and aiming at the same time, and it's just so satisfying to see people evolve right in front of my eyes.
So what do you think is something important you've learned during production?
Well, the elephant in the room is that I've been working on this project, my first one, for 2.5 years. And I ignored the advice to start small and crank out a few little projects because I thought that I had set up a buffer for myself to really drill down and make a game that I was going to be incredibly happy with. I had to keep cutting my scope back to come up with something that I could actually finish. And so now I'm going to tack some much smaller projects that are simpler to jump into, simpler to finish. And I think that starting small and taking something to completion teaches you all this stuff you never knew you needed to learn. When you're just working on development, you've got to know how to get onto Steam, how to promote, and doing a small project, even if it's a really little game that took you a week, you're still going to learn all that extra stuff on top.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to us. That about wraps it up for this year. Thank you so much for coming and checking out our aspiring indie artists. Reach them in the description below. Keep playing and see you later, Space Cowboy.